So this is the first video of the semester, so now I'm going to try to teach the learning objective, which is simplifying fractions. I'm also going to kind of explain some of the different parts of the videos and kind of reminders. So the most important thing to remember from the start is to take notes. All right, it's been proven time and again that actually like writing down what you're learning has benefits, all right, with your memory and understanding. All right, so as you go through this, make sure you're taking down notes. The good thing with a video is you can pause it and then kind of catch up and write down if I'm going too quick or something like that. All right, so make sure you use the fact that it's video to your advantage. All right, another thing you'll see is all the videos are going to start off with the title of the video, which corresponds to the learning objective. So that's kind of a good thing to put on the top of the page. And then all the slides, as I kind of go through the different slides, most of them have a title and then some writing or an example like that. So you can actually use this to kind of help separate out your notes as you're going. So at the top of the page, it might say simplifying fractions. Under that, you'll have like, what is a fraction? And you have the definition of a fraction here, which is a shorthand notation for breaking down whole units into smaller pieces. So you probably know that's what a fraction is. You've heard about the whole pizza thing over and over again. All right, slices of pizza are just fractions of the whole pizza. So when we're talking about what does a fraction mean, 2 out of 5. All right, well, a couple of things I didn't put on here. The top is the numerator. The bottom is the denominator. All right, so most of the time I'll just say top and bottom because it's kind of visual and you can kind of just scan to where it is. All right, but 2 over 5, numerator over denominator. And what does it mean? We take a whole piece. It can be anything. I'm just going to use a circle because it'll be convenient for this example. I'm going to break it up into 5 equal pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so we have 5 equal pieces, and then we're going to take 2 of those pieces. So 2/5 is 2 parts of these 5 different pieces to make up the whole. So 2/5 is this kind of green wedge here out of a whole circle. Of course, fractions, you can have more than the number, so you might have like another wedge over here. If we had 6/5, because we need all 5 from the circle and an extra one. It's kind of starting out fractions, just breaking up the whole into different pieces. All right, so what does it mean when we're talking about simplifying fractions? That's the kind of title of this video, simplifying fractions. All right, well, 2 fractions can mean the same thing. So if we do it like we just did on the previous slide, 1/2, let's do it as a square this time. So our whole thing is this square. 1/2 means we're going to break it into 2 pieces, and then we're going to take one of those 2 pieces. All right, so this is 1/2. All right, 2/4 means we're going to take the whole unit. So let's just start with the big square again. And break it up into 4 units, so we can do the same thing. And then we're going to take 2 of those 4. So 1 here, 1 there. And you can see I colored in the exact same thing I did. So 1/2 is the same as 2/4. And if I want to do 4/8, well, I could break this up into 8 pieces. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8. All right, so those are 8 equal pieces. I mentioned before it's important that they're all equal. You can't just do small bits and large bits. All right, but 8 equal pieces, and we take 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see again, I shaded in the exact same thing. So all these fractions represent the same thing. 1 part out of 2, 2 parts out of 4, 4 parts out of 8. All right, and when we mean simplifying a fraction, all it means is we want the one with the smallest numbers. So 1 and 2 are much smaller numbers than 4 and 8. So this is the simplified version of the fraction, because it kind of uses the least amount of lines in the picture. It's the smallest numbers in the fraction. All right, so that's what it means to simplify. Basically, just make the numbers as small as possible. All right, so how do we actually simplify a fraction in practice? All right, one thing you probably know is if you take a number and divide it by itself, it basically gets rid of the fraction. It just turns into the number 1. And we're going to use that principle to help us simplify a fraction. All right. So 4 over 12. One thing we can do is break this down into the smallest numbers we can by multiplication. So one thing, you can only do this canceling things out when it's multiplication. So 4 is 2 times 2. And 12, if you break it down to the smallest numbers you can with multiplication, is 2 times 2 times 3. Yeah. And again, whenever you have multiplication and the same number on the top and bottom of the fraction, you can cancel those out. So this says we're going to get a 3 on the bottom. All right, one thing to be careful with, if you get rid of all the terms on the top, it doesn't turn into a 0. It's instead going to turn into a 1. And so when you cancel out things with multiplication, you get a 1 instead of a 0. All right, so 4/12 is the same as 1/3. And generally when you have a 1, you know you've simplified it because the numbers can't get smaller than a 1 in a fraction. All right, so we're just looking for things that are the same. All right, one thing you could do to kind of save some time when you're doing this is look for the biggest number that divides the top and the bottom. So 4 and 12 are both divisible by 4. So 4 is just 4 times 1. And 12 is 4 times 3. And then I can see there's a 4 on the top and the bottom, which gives me my 1/3. All right, so that's how you simplify a fraction. Just see if there's any numbers that divide both the top and the bottom, and you can cancel that out. All right, so this will happen a lot in the videos too. All right, you're gonna have problems that are your turn to try. All right, so the way these are gonna work, all right, I encourage you to try the problem yourself. That way you can instantly see whether you're understanding it or not. All right, so the video will kind of pause itself and you can try the problem. And then when the video restarts, you're gonna see me having worked it all out. So take that time, try to work out the problem, and then compare your answer to what I get, and that can kind of judge really quickly whether you're kind of understanding what's happening in the video or not. All right, so go ahead and try to simplify the fraction 3/9. And now you can see my solution. I start with 3/9. 3 and 9 are both divisible by 3, so I pull that 3 out of each of them, and that leaves behind the 1/3 once those are gone. So just like the last problem, it ends up being equal to 1/3. And again, there's a 1 on top, so you know that's the smallest it could possibly be. All right, so let's just quickly go through some more examples, see some other things that can happen. All right, so same thing, simplifying fractions, and I'll try to do it in the shortest amount of steps possible. All right, so if I'm looking at 30 and 12, I'm trying to think about what numbers divide both these numbers. I'm pretty sure 4 is not gonna work. 3 does, so let's try 3. All right, so it's gonna be 30 is 3 times 10, and 12 is 3 times 4. And again, I'm canceling out those 3's to give me 10/4. And one thing you always want to do when you're simplifying fractions or working with fractions is see if you can keep going, because maybe you didn't get the biggest thing possible, and I didn't, because 10 is 2 times 5, and 4 is 2 times 2. So again, we can cancel out the 2's, and this is 5/2. One thing a lot of students would do, especially if they're coming straight out of middle school, is rewrite 5/2 as 2.5. And that's true, 5/2 is 2.5. But what we don't want to do in algebra is use these mixed fractions with the whole numbers and the fraction, because when we end up working in equations and things, we don't know if this is 2 times 1/2 or 2 and an extra 1/2. So what we want to do instead is just keep it exactly as one fraction. All right, so let's go on to the next one, 98/14. Let's see. So 98 is definitely going to be divisible by 2. So let's start with that. All right, I generally like to see if things are even. If they're both even, they're divisible by 2. 98 divided by 2 is going to be 49. 14 is 2 times 7. The 2's are going to cancel. I should just cross it out. All right, and that's going to be 49/7. And then I also know now the bottom 7, I know 49 also has another factor of 7, so I can write this as 7 times 7/7. One of the 7's cancels out. Right, so I still have the 7 on the top. And we said before with the bottom, if you cross out the whole thing, you get a 1. And if you're dividing a number by a 1, that doesn't do anything, so we'll just actually just write 7 as our answer. And last one, 120/30. Again, it's okay to go in small steps. I see right away they're both multiples of 10, so you could pull a 10 out, but even quicker than that, I see they're both multiples of 30. And again, there's nothing wrong with going in multiple steps, as long as you keep going until you can't go anymore. I think we did in that first problem. The 30's cancel. We get 4/1. And just like the last problem, 4/1, dividing a number by 1 is just the whole number by itself. All right, so here's another problem for you to try on your own. Just make sure you keep going until you can't make the numbers any smaller. So here are 2 different ways you could have done this problem. I see 27 and 36 are both multiples of 3, so I could pull out this 3 first and cancel those out. I get down to 9 over 12. And again, you should keep asking yourself every step, can I go any farther? And 9 over 12, again, are both multiples of 3. So I get 3 over 4 as my final answer. 3 and 4 are not divisible by any of the same numbers, except for 1. So that's how we know we're done with the problem. An alternative would be, instead of doing these 2 steps, you could just recognize right away 27 and 36 are both multiples of 9. So the 9 you can get rid of, and I get that 3 over 4. All right, and the last thing that'll happen in pretty much all these videos, there'll be a multiple choice question. All right, so it's a way for me to kind of quickly see, if I look at the video, who got the question right, who got the question wrong. So it's not going to affect your grade or anything like that. So just like the other one, try the problem, see which one you get, and then mark the correct answer on the website. All right, one thing to be worried about, it does shuffle the answers. All right, so the first answer might not be A, the second answer might not be B. They're a little bit shuffled, so make sure if you think the answer is C, you actually look to make sure you click C. All right, so that's the first video. It's a little bit long because I added some extra explanation about notes and stuff. All right, but make sure after you watch the video and you're comfortable with that, move on to doing practice. All right, and do as much practice as you need until you're ready to do the skill check. So it'll be the general timeline for each learning objective. Watch this video and you take notes. You go do practice, and you can do your skill check and then move on to the next one.